and that is playoff form. That is moving towards playoffs, getting them towards 6th, 5th, and 4th. They're not realistically, they'll still be a game away, I believe, from 6th place, even if they win 2-0, but they'll be entrenched in playoff discussion. And in playoffs, they have the superstars and even the new stars like Candy coming through to be a threat to any team.
Yeah, but we are into Champs League here for our second game. King down a game on the blue side here against M3, who are up a game in the best of 2. Lissandra, the first ban there for King. M3 answer with the Nidalee actually targeting MLXG of all players here. And 10 seconds left for King's second ban. We'll see what they want to go with.
I want to see the adaptive bans coming through from King as I see your horror at the Maokai ban. We need to see something to throw M3 away from their comfort, because M3 on their comfort looked pretty damn strong last game.
They really did. I don't know about horror, but certainly just surprised. They're an interesting ban. 2 top lane bans actually by King. Maokai and Lupa going in. Veigar the ban for M3. Cassidy in their last one as well. So lots of room here for King. We'll see what they want to first pick.
I mean, effectively 4 top lane bans coming through with the flex picks, decimating that top lane champion pool. But this is Lupa. We know that he has pocket picks he hasn't pulled out, let alone his penchant for playing off meta. Maybe they need to get him off meta to really hold him down, because Lupa last game, that control to stay in lane against MLXG, unbeknownst as far as we could tell, 2-3 minutes and live through that pressure, just trivialized MLXG's jungling.
Yeah, and MLXG going to take Rek'Sai away from Condi this game. I do like to pick Rek'Sai, a great first pick currently in League of Legends, and M3 might just go back to some of the same stuff. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see Candy's Corki again.
I mean, Candy's Corki has been outstanding during the LPL, especially in the last few weeks. Definitely been, comparable to the top Corkis in the world, like Deft, of course, from EDG. So if it's working, pick it up again.
Yeah, so it is going to be Corki and Lee Sin the next pick there as well. Almost maybe having a jab slightly at MLXG. They're taking the jungle that he just played, effectively reversing the jungle matchup from game 1.
Yeah, there are other options. Vi and Jarvan both came through the bans and picks, but again, we don't know much about Condi's champion pool. Everyone can play Lee Sin, you have to say, at a competitive level. So bringing out the Lee Sin is at least going to have the skirmish pressure advantage, but that was no advantage to MLXG in the last series.
No, we'll have to see how that develops here as King are looking at their next few picks as well. I wouldn't mind the Azir pick away, especially from Dade, but King might be mixing it up quite a bit here. They are actually going to lock in their Heck Room, and they're going to give Lamb Thresh.
So the crazy thing to me is that on the red side, we saw bans coming towards Dade, even though Dade had to go for the blind pick. Now, with red side, potentially last pick coming out, Dade, the Zed, the Yasuo are both available. Lupa was the one targeted in this game, so far we haven't seen the top lane champion, although with the Annie being hovered, anything's possible. But you'd have to think Dade, with all his champions available, so flexible. It's not going to be... Well, they've actually hovered these. It didn't lock in the Azir, so the Azir is available, but so many other options as well.
Yeah, it looks like they might just give him the counter pick, which would make a lot of sense here, given Dade's pedigree as a player and the fact that they're on the red side, but might be mixing it up. Seems like Love City going to take Annie once again, but Rumble actually the champion there for Lupa.
We don't see Lupa on Rumble a lot, but again, I like that it's back to the meta. It's not the Singed, it's not some of the unconventional picks. With Maokai and Na taken away, the reliable top lane tanks have been decimated. Lock in that Rumble.
And what do we think of the matchup here? Because by the looks of things, it is going to be Hecarim versus Rumble in the top lane.
I think Hecarim will fine in that lane. In the early levels, he'll definitely be punished. Rumble has kill pressure pre-6, but once he picks up, say, the Spirit Visage, for example, or even just works towards the first parts of that, just even picks up some magic resist, maybe it will delay the Trinity Force and the power spike coming through from Sky. I feel like if he just goes straight Trinity Force, he'll lose duels quite significantly to Lupa. But if he's able to get just a bit of magic resistance, Spectre's Cowl and move into Trinity Force, he's going to be happy enough.
Yeah, and King rounded the lineup very well here. Graves there down for the bottom lane to pair him with Thresh. And Ari, a great blind pick mid laner there as well. Love that Woosh is kind of going to take it to Candy here and say, you know what, I'm not going to play Kalista again. Let's really battle with short-range AD carries.
Well, he took kind of the skill matchup, the defensive choice of Kalista into Corki. Looked to outscale Corki and just got outscaled himself. He was just too far behind. He split between 2 item builds, never committed to either of them, and by the time he finished them, but look what that luck-in is. He had a choice of any option against Ari. It was going to be a skill matchup, whatever he went for, even on 5.2, and one of the oldest AD assassin mid lane skill matchups comes through. It's Ari versus Zed.
It is, and Dade Zed is a thing of beauty, and to be honest, despite Dade's early half of the split really being quite lackluster, I think, for a player of his caliber, his Zed has always looked good throughout the LPL. I mean, you know, in his history as a player.
You have to say, though, he struggled on that Zed the first couple of outings during the first few weeks of the season. Last week, very on form. He was playing Zed just like before, his team fight Zed was in full display and excellent split pushing. So I do like the fact that he's gone to the Zed. It's a true skill matchup. It kind of tunnels Ari into leaving out the CDR early, so her skirmishing's just that much weaker if she has to pick up a Seeker's Arm Guard. But if you don't, if you disrespect this Dade Zed, we all know the pressure and the presence he can bring out from the mid lane.
You can see there the reverse jungle matchup, but here's the big one. Assassin on the 5.2 Ari versus Dade Zed. Should be pretty explosive actually here. And this, again, something we're seeing a lot so far in the LPL. We're going to have Graves versus Corki.
And Graves has been one of the standouts of Week 6, especially of the LPL. So aggressive. You can out-rotate a Corki, negate his mid-game item advantage because he builds so well into the Trinity Force, which again builds so well into taking down turrets. If Graves can out-rotate a Corki, negate that mid-game power, he can just be a mid-game powerhouse all on his own.
Yeah, we'll see how it does develop here, of course, in this one. And there's a lot to like here. I mean, King, again, feel like they have just a bit of a scattered draft almost.
I mean, I do agree with you. The Hecarim doesn't really fit in with the other champions, but we just want to see more aggressive, effective laning from them. They cannot let M3 walk on top of them because they let that happen once, and M3 gleefully accepted the win.
And I guess maybe the big thing here for M3 is that, well, you know what, we're going to find out soon. Let's get straight onto the Rift. And welcome back for Game 2 here between King and M3. M3 up a game so far in their first match of this week's edition of the LPL. And Dade is back on Zed.
Dade Zed, always something to be feared. And you look down the King lineup and you wonder, who is going to be split pushing against this Zed? It's probably going to be the Hecarim. I guess they have the flexibility of also having MLXG split push. But that means the Hecarim needs to itemize armor early. And he's not going to get armor early against a Rumble or with the Trinity Force power spike he's looking towards. You have to feel in the mid game, Dade, if he gets going on this Zed, can maybe even overtake this game.
I mean, maybe. That's been a lot of the story, I feel like, when we see Dade Zed. So M3 are definitely going to look to set him up here. I guess my one big thing about M3's comp that sticks out is that they don't really have a tank.
Well, they don't have a tank. They're going to rely on a lot of positional play from Lee Sin and Rumble to kind of fulfill that role. They have Love CD is actually going to be lent on, especially because there's no setup CC really at all for the Rumble equalizer. You have to feel like the anti-tip is going to be the critical factor. Smart positioning coming through from Woosh and Liam. They want the 2v2, so they're actually staying in base a long time just to stop being spotted by this ward.
Yeah, and actually M3 set up defensively now in the enemy jungle, it seems like. So playing pretty far forward, might even look for a buff steal here.
Yeah, they are going to be spotted by this ward walking to wave, I believe. I believe you have enough sight radius to see that, but it looks like, as you say, the steal's going to be on.
Yeah, and that's good news here for M3, going to take away one buff, and I wonder with MLXG, starting on the other side, whether or not he'll actually know to jungle up here and take M3's red buff away, but Condi's already started, he is going to steal it, but Candy is on top of a ward.
Yeah, Liam walked in and actually warded that red buff from the Krugs. Very smart warding spot. Smites away the red buff and gets out.
Yeah, I mean, Condi does get it. Forced a flash, actually, there. So both the summoners on cooldown for now, but that should give MLXG enough information to just go ahead and take the red buff away from M3's side.
If he does get his red buff stolen, you have to remember there's a lot of experience put onto the small lizards next to the red buff, so actually is only still level 1, doesn't even have red buff finished, so probably going to struggle to take a second camp, going to fall very low in the jungle.
Yeah, looks like he's on the blue buff as well, so going to try and get both his buffs, but like you mentioned, a little bit behind in experience could cost him here. Condi very low, will get the buff, that'll get him level 2 and a little bit more as well, but lost, like you mentioned, a lot of experience, not fully clearing that camp.
And MLXG on the control jungler, on the Rex side, is going to be able to power farm, is going to be ahead in levels because of the flash being blown. And now you have to be so careful for your Condi. Second competitive game, you make a mistake in a gank, even at level 3, if you use your gap closer to get in, you got no way to get out.
No, and right now, M3's lane's playing pretty aggressively. I guess Dade playing back towards his turret in the early game, but look at Looper already very far forward against the Hecarim.
I mean, level 2 is actually a passive situation in a lot of Rumble matchups, but against Hecarim, you can be pretty confident that Hecarim's going to need to use his Q to AoE down the wave, just forcing him to use mana to counter push and just pushing yourself as Looper. It's against a Rex side, so you're not expecting a very early gank timing, but that might actually be a window for MLXG to get aggressive.
We'll have to see as Dade is going to just throw some Qs out there again. kind of has to just sit in here in melee range and kind of get harassed and pushed in for a couple of levels at least.
Just for a couple of levels. In a range versus melee matchup, you're going to eat auto attacks, you're going to fall low, doesn't have the door and shield start, so has to use his potions and just try and avoid taking as much damage as possible. But of course, the lane will change significantly once level 6 comes through for both.
Yeah, back down the bottom here, Whoosh actually having a bit better time. A great hook there by Lamb landing in. The double flag going to look in there, but a great stun for LoveCD. Candy Valkyrie's on. That was very well played by M3.
A preemptive heal comes through from Candy. I feel like if he tabbed over and noticed an exhaust coming through from Lamb, not an ignite, he could have been a bit more judicious with that cooldown, maybe kept it available, but just not having that knowledge, uses the heal very early.
Yeah, so that is a summoner spell down there, and a great hook by Lamb. We've seen his Thresh time and time again. It's been, I think, possibly his best performing champion.
You see the secondary hook coming through, misses. The trade damage is quite strong, but LXG is here.
Yeah, good Lantern in. They're going to look for the knockup. Does find it onto LoveCD. That's going to be the flay and forcing of the flash there as well. So very good pressure early on. We already talked about it. MLXG can get the ball rolling here.
And Graves Thresh can now play so aggressively in lane. But speaking of aggression, Condi's there.
Yeah, Dada in now as well. Actually, Condi moving through, but MLXG is rotating in level 5 already for this Ari. Just going to get the cannon there with some shurikens, and Dada has to back away.
It's good rotation coming through from MLXG. Gets to the mid lane, relieves a bit of pressure. Not sure on the minimap, it looks like we might see some more pressure onto the mid lane. As yes, it looks like Condi and MLXG battling.
Actually flashing forward there for the knockup as well. Condi trying to ward hop away, but actually warded down there. Does find the second ward, sorry. And actually lands back with the Q going in. Now Dade going to run in as well, but he doesn't have his ulti to close the distance.
Some interesting geometry plays coming through from Condi. Didn't know if that was a fail ward, but it looks like he just wanted it for an extra mobility option just to have a ward on MXG's position. Nice smooth moves, but no kills come through.
Yeah, good rotations though do come in, and actually LoveCD now guarding the brush there next to the blue buff. MLXG and Lamb will back away instead though, and might even look at the Dragon, but both junglers very low level here at 5.5 minutes.
Doesn't feel like the Dragon is a realistic option just yet. Candy and LoveCD, you see they have to stand so far in lane. In fact, LoveCD's actually gone back, so they've ceded any hope of lane control against a Graves. And if Vasily and Imp have shown us anything so far in the LPL, Graves in the mid game, if you go for that Bloodthirster, which actually has become the more popular pick with the 5.2 nerfs to Infinity Edge, and you can out-rotate the enemy, doesn't matter that there's no Trinity Force in Graves' build. He can be just as important and just as strong at taking early turrets.
Yeah, he can, and a very good freeze hit coming through for Whoosh as well. He's actually 20 CS ahead already of Candy, so we talked about it before. Candy really took over the lane with his Corki. This time it's Whoosh's turn.
Yeah, Whoosh is now the one who's playing very far ahead, and it's against Candy's Corki, like you mentioned, a very important advantage to be getting. If Corki delays that Trinity Force, if we ever see wave clear Corki watching as his turrets fall down to his side, it's just the advantage and the potential of that champion is largely reliant on just burst trades in team fights.
Yeah, good play back there from Lamb, though, actually going to pop LoveCD back in, but Whoosh took a lot of trade damage there with some nice fast response landing for Candy, so probably wants to look to go back, make the first shop here, and with a healthy CS lead, looks like they are going to go for their first purchase.
M3 have definitely comped around early Dragons. They've got Rumble Corki, an excellent duo at picking up that early Dragon, but as you mentioned, the Corki is significantly far behind. Still not sitting on enough gold to pick up a Phage. Maybe with pushing out this wave, we'll be able to take either the aggressive or defensive option between the Phage and Sheen. They're not going to really hit their item timings to get basically an uncontested Dragon, and that first Dragon, I feel, will be a window into which team wins this game.
Yeah, and on the other side of the matchup, the BF sword already completed there for Graves, so a big spike there for Whoosh. Condi, though, poked his head into the enemy jungle, looked for something, but going to find Assassin instead, but a Spirit Rush going to come in there towards the top. Lupin could be in trouble here. Exhaust does move down, the Equalizer, coming down as well. Condi going to try and save him. A little bit of a shield there from Safeguard. Might actually be enough there. Assassin getting low, but a good knock up. Condi chasing in though and just gets shredded, forced to flash away.
Unbelievably, no one dies in that trade. Everyone pushing their champion limits and their summoner spells to the maximum. Dade shows up late. He's smelling blood. He thinks he might be able to get an exit kill, but smartly, 3-man recall at the turret.
Yeah, stacked underneath it, so will be safe there from Dade's death mark, which was available. Dade even poking in as well, maybe even contemplating a tower dive there, but does not go in for it instead. Kind of knows that he wants to play it a little safe, and instead will return to his lane and try and get some of that farm back.
But Dade does lose quite a lot from that roam. He was already 10 CS behind. He wasn't able to push out the wave, which of course we saw him do consistently against the roaming Twisted Fate from Assassin last game. So he's behind in CS. And we can see it is the Seeker's Arm Guard first. It's not going to be 20% CDR just yet, so the early power spike from items is lower than most Aries in 5.2. But the Zhonya's, you know it's on the way.
Yeah. As and a great item here for Assassin. We see this a lot with Zed, actually, which is part of the reason I felt like he dropped off slightly, maybe towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. It's just that everyone in the game has some sort of answer, usually through their item builds.
And QSS has become cheaper, and because it gives less magic resist, gives less combat stats, which uses the ultimate just to try and poke Candy out of lane. With the lower combat stats, you can actually pigeonhole it to the active a bit more, so it's even better against the Zed.
Yeah, and that's not good news for Zeg. When he can't assassinate someone as an assassin with that big ulti, he's not doing his job. But we've seen, a lot of teamfight Zed, especially from the likes of Dade, and actually Assassin here from King as well, looking very strong. So we'll see how that develops as we move in. A slight lead here for King, actually. So, what needed to have a bit more of a consistent early game and have got that here.
And Sky up the top lane against Lupa has gone the fade, gone the most aggressive option, so does not have the magic resist to stand up to trade. So we should see Rumble winning that top lane as we see a harassment, I believe, coming through from Dade.
Yeah, Dade, I think, tried to all in for the kill. Didn't use his Ignite, though. And Assassin didn't have Exhaust, so just forced out the ulti there, did Dade. They'll trade those skills back and forth here, but couldn't quite find enough damage to get the kill onto Ari.
Just a bit of poking, not a big trade coming through. He has the blue buffs, of course, quite a short cooldown coming through on that ultimate, and obviously just did not think there was any kill pressure coming through from a Condi gank anytime soon.
Not at all, as we do see Dade and Assassin fighting with blue buffs now in the mid lane as well. Pinkwood will get cleaned out there by King, looking to keep control of the dragon. This particular goal around here, Candy has to return with the Sheen as well, but Whoosh is continuing to get big leads in this lane.
And the Sheen gives him burst trades, but of course Graves scales so well with flat AD that I would give him a trading and pushing advantage with the BF sword. So it's a definite power trough for Corki, and we don't often say that when you build so naturally with the Trinity Force.
No, we really don't here. And again, Whoosh and Lamb happy to hold the wave here. Just keep Love City and Candy back. Lamb always threatening with a hook here. And again, whenever Candy comes in, just eats a buckshot.
And I has to back away.
Oh, that hook was amazing. Flays back in as well. First blood goes to Whoosh.
That is a massive kill in the bot lane. This is just almost a repeat, but with different teams in the second game. In the first game, it was Candy taking over the lane. In this game, Whoosh takes a massive advantage of that first kill.
And Lamb deserves some sort of award for that hook. That was outstanding.
It's not the Ezreal Arcane Shift, you have to remember. That Valkyrie, you can be interrupted during the channel, and Lamb just was a sniper with the death
sentence.
Death sentence. Got it. There's a lot of death in League of Legends, patience.
There is, especially when a Thresh with those sort of hooks are involved here. And Lamb, we talked about it, he's looked best on his Thresh, and you can kind of see why. King off to a good early start here. Condi, though, has found Assassin here with Dade now as well. Ari will Spirit Shadow away. The Death Mark might be enough. No, it's not quite. The Ignite is ticking down, but Assassin should be okay. Lives on barely any health, and MLXG sneaks away the Dragon.
Yeah, it could have been a one kill for Dragon Trade. Already not ideal for M3, but Condi kept hold of the kick, did not use the kick during that fight. That damage would have been enough to burst down Assassin. Maybe it was just a call from Dade, believing he'd done enough damage and wanting to pick up the kill for Snowball, but the result is no kills whatsoever for that Dragon.
And we haven't quite highlighted it yet, but the exhaust choice there from Assassin, very good in this lane against Dade Zed.
It's a defensive option. It means that he has significantly less kill pressure, but honestly, if he's going to be building a Zhonya's first, he already seeds a bit of combat stats. The CDR is so important now that Ari is less about the burst trades and more about the consistent damage. If you're going to go defensive, why not go all out and ensure you're not going to die in lane?
Lamb here looking for another hook, but doesn't quite land that one onto Candy. Graves will return to lane, and King, again, looking very strong in this early game. Got an early Bloodthirster already done on their Graves.
Credit to Sky, even without itemizing magic resist, even going for the very selfish, expensive luxury Trinity Force rush, he's actually winning in CS against Lupa, and Lupa hasn't been rotating, so he hasn't picked up any assists. He's obviously also building into his natural build path, but Trinity Force into tanky is the gold standard for Hecarim, and if he's unpressured as he is now, even without flash, you have to remember, haven't seen any jungle pressure coming onto him to try and use any of his summoners, Sky is basically getting a free laning phase, which is super scary. We know how strong a Hecarim can be in a late game team fight.
Yeah, especially if he's able to go the luxury Trinity Force like you mentioned. So Sky looking good here in the early stages. Bottom side the same as well. Even Assassin ahead by a couple of CS and has foiled every aggressive attempt by Dade Zed here. I mean, Assassin still getting chunked out there by the Zed at this point, but everyone's sort of powering up, and King just getting the better end of these early game trades.
My big worry for M3 is that if we do see Sky itemize Trinity Force into, say, armor, like a Frozen Heart or a Randuin's early, and basically abandon building for lane, get through this lane against Lupa without building any magic resist, and build items to counter Dade, remove the option of split pushing for Dade, I feel like M3's team comp just doesn't have the options in the mid game. But speaking of options, that's an aggressive option from Dade.
MLXG coming in, but he gets knocked up immediately out of it, and MLXG just cleans out the next kill.
The moment that he'd opted into taking the W Shadow, he was in no man's land. He had to go for the emergency ult, hope that he could get King to disengage, but no reason to. Full health on both members, and dies in the mid lane.
Yeah, perfectly timed Unborrow there for the knock-up, and even though Assassin had no charm left, plenty of damage between Ari and Rek'Sai to claim that kill. In fact, they get the mid turret out of it as well.
No summoners, gap closer used just for a bit of harass. Dade, he sealed his own fate.
Yeah, now down the bottom, might even look for a dive here, but instead Woosh and Liam just going to hang out here. Candy trying to get some CS away here with the phosphorus bomb, but he's fallen critically behind in CS. It's almost 40 down.
It's 50 CS pastry time is the advantage. Mathematics difficult, but
so
the Bloodthirster build that we see in the LPL, you can take turret shots, you can position so aggressively. Now with the rotation coming through from MLXG.
That was a very nice bear though coming through. Does get the double stun, but it's not enough damage, and cooldown wasted maybe there for Annie. MLXG went for a dive, but Liam managed to get him out.
It's just such a massive disadvantage. They're actually sitting on the same amount of golds in their pocket. 1,100 to 1,000 gold between Woosh and Corki, but what a difference in terms of item. A completed Bloodthirster, so much efficiency with that purchase. The polar opposite, you have to remember, of his BF sword into recurve bow in the previous game. They've swapped roles pastry time, and to be honest, looking at the scoreboard, so have the teams.
Yeah, they have. Certainly is about 2,000-3,000 gold ahead there for King. The tower up already for them as well, and looking good in multiple lanes actually. Apart from mid lane, which is even, everything's looked fine here, and Woosh going in 1v2 effectively here. Fancies his chances. Liam not around to help him, and Woosh just doesn't care.
He's got 23% lifesteal coming through between the Doran Blade and the Bloodthirster, so he's happy. He's not going to be burst down without the Tibbers being available. Ignite is available. The Death Sentence almost picks up a member. The burst trades, you got to respect them coming out from King on this Graves Thresh lane.
Yeah, and every time Liam lands a hook, they're able to almost always convert into a kill. So good job by Liam trying to get into that brush and using the fog of war. They actually have a pink ward there as well, as Liam clears out a trinket ward there. So a good spot to hide in, but all M3 can do is continue to respect the bottom lane, but that means Candy's going to keep falling behind in CS.
It's an even bigger problem than on paper. Okay, your bot lane with Corki losing in the mid game, that's scary, but remember, Liam actually took a secondary exhaust. He doesn't even have Ignite for kill pressure, but they're still picking up the kills and forcing M3 out of lane. To have the defensive summoner 2 exhausts against Dade, that's massive.
Lupa cancels his teleport though, and you can see why here is Sky actually going to get aggressed on by Condi and Lupa. Hecarim does finally fall there just with the constituent parts of the Trinity Force, but down the bottom, Woosh going to get Love City. Dade's down here as well, though Liam actually lands a hook there. The exhaust is there as well. The Flays moved in, and Woosh might even get another kill here as Assassin dives in to clean it up. Corki does get the trade, but that's a double kill for Graves.
Yeah, 3 for 2 as the trade. King actually winning out on the trade even after it looked like M3 were going to get a big advantage. Dade, he was so close to killing, but it's that exhaust, the secondary exhaust. They even have a backup one coming through from Assassin. M3, I don't know what options they have to get back into this game, because King, they're outplaying them on almost all fronts.
Yeah, 4,000 gold now the leader's on. It continues to climb as well. Dragon back in 40 seconds. Tier 2 turret going to fall here as well. MLXG happily face tanking that one, although no, not quite low enough. Love City is in to defend it. Condi does get the next kill. Rides on top of the Rek'Sai, and the bear stuns them up. King can't answer.
Yeah, they do pick up the exit kill, but it's the absolute minimum pastry time. 25 seconds to Dragon. If they can also pick up this Dragon, that'd be something for M3, but you see the pings towards Dragon. They do not want to cede this objective.
I mean, Rek'Sai's going to be back and will probably have her ulti up by the time she's respawned, so should be fine to get into the Dragon fight on time. Trinity Force done now for Sky's Hecarim as well. That's exceptionally scary.
That's a very fast Trinity Force coming through. Of course, no tankiness just yet. Has to be very on point with his use of Spirit of Dread. It's his only implied tankiness with the AoE Spirit spell vamp that he's going to get. The M3, they've started the Dragon. Equalizer's available. They can take this objective.
Dragon does go down, but what are they going to lose, if anything here? King are poised to try and fight. MLXG getting in. That's a 3-man knockup. Now Sky trying to dive in, but Lupa gets hooked back here. Flayed into the team as well, and Assassin going to dive back in with the ulti. Lupa uses his, almost dead there, as the safeguard's going to keep him just safe enough for now, and King going to try and run in. They do have Hecarim ulti almost up there. Candy gets flash charmed and hooked there as well, and Assassin gets the next kill. Sky's going to line it up. MLXG's here as well, and he's gotten the kill into Rek'Sai, but now Graves in the backline ripping through people as well. That's, I think, a double, maybe a triple, and it's an ace.
The true assassin showed up at the end of the fight. It's none other than Woosh on the Graves. Bloodthirster static shift already completed compared to just the Trinity Force finally finished for Woosh. They had that turret solo. They pick it up as well. King blew M3 away.
Yeah, 3 turrets to 1 now, and just piling on the gold lead. 7,000 gold ahead. already for King. Zonya's complete now for Assassin. Just so much is going right this time.
Both these teams entered on the same amount of points, the same ladder position. They're going to exit on the same amount of points on this early form from King, you'd have to say. Absolute role reversal of both games. But both teams, when they get that early snowball going, you can see all parts of their comp and their team members coming together.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it with King. When they're ahead, they look very good. The bear down there onto Woosh. He's going to get stunned up. Good kick there by Condi. Actually cancels part of the quick draw, but he's going to rotate in. He's so strong still.
You have to respect the 23% lifesteal and the attack speed modifier already finished with the static shiv. If you don't burst him down instantly, even with 2 members hitting on him, he'll probably be able to out-sustain and pick up a double kill.
Yeah, Graves always been sort of a bruiser AD carry, and Woosh is really showing that off here in this particular game with the Bloodthirster first build. Looper returning to the top side. Got decent items here, Sork Shoes plus the Haunting guys, but just an Arm Guard is his next one, and Trinity Force Merc Tread's already done. Dade going to come in onto Assassin as well. Looks to use his ulti, but doesn't quite pull the trigger, and Assassin actually going to dive back in. Might even look for it. There's the ulti finally for Dade, but Layem trying to line something up. Assassin does not. Sonya's and actually goes down there to Dade. Love City low there as well. MLXG trying to fire the Prey Seeker in, but the Layem actually does get the kill into Love City. Play away there as well, but Looper gets the next kill. Very weird exchange, but 2 for 1 in favor of M3.
Assassin dying with both Exhaust and Zonya's available. Okay, Ari was obviously stunned during the duration at the end, but could have used either of those abilities a bit proactively. Tried to be a bit too cute, tried to hold on to those cooldowns, and gave away her life.
Yeah, Sky going to return to the top side as well. Runs back there with the devastating charge. Whoosh in the middle actually got a pickaxe now. 6-0-1. It's just Graves with almost 200 CS at 20 minutes. Just an amazing game here for Woosh. And we've seen it. When King look good, it's often their AD carry player that goes off.
And it seems like both AD carries, like you say, have kind of been the benefit of their team's good work. We were saying similar superlatives about Candy last game, but it's all about Woosh this time around, showing why Bloodthirster Graves is picking up a bit of popularity. Okay, we've already spoken multiple times about the fact that you can go to those turrets, you have a good amount of AD, you can tank a couple of turret hits, makes you very good at picking up structures. But as you mentioned, Graves already has innate tankiness from the True Grit passive, building up the armor and magic resist, with a shield, which of course scales on resist as well. So tanky. You can stand up so strong on those skirmishes. If you're ever focused, people just can't DPS you down.
No, and Woosh is even counter jungling now as well, takes the red buff away from M3. This looks so similar to the game that M3 just had here as well. Kinga getting aggressive wards down the jungle, taking it over here, and even MLXG looking for a dive.
MLXG understands he can take a few turret hits, play aggressively, and there's the death sentence.
Yeah, Condi going to get caught up there as well. Does safeguard away. MLXG going to ride in there as Lee Sin comes back in, but Graves gets the tower and the kill. Assassin dives back in onto Candy. Good damage, and he just goes off. Heal Force out his collateral damage. Would have killed the Corki otherwise, and can get a kill, and they keep pushing.
Dade's actually losing a split push against Sky, despite the fact that no armor has been built on Sky. He cannot play aggressive. He's backing away now, but the rest of King are coming to take down Dade.
Yeah, Thresh is here as well. Dade's got so few options left here. Does actually dodge the hook there. Assassin does use his Sonya's this time, and MLXG, he'll take that kill.
The Z mechanics were actually very cute there. Did dodge a lot of skill shots, but 5 members going to fall eventually.
Yeah, can't dodge everything here. Sky even going to continue the push out here as well, rampaging through the minions there with his Q, and Randuin's almost done now for MLXG. I mean, we've talked about it already. The gold lead practically 10,000 gold ahead now for King.
Okay, so let's take a deep breath and kind of dissect what's happened this series. The one thing you can definitely say, both these teams when ahead look great. Both these teams definitely have good proactive shot calling when they're winning. But when they're losing, they just don't seem to have any windows in to get back into games. You can see the ward coverage is wonderful. Aggressive wards across the map coming out from King. M3, they have decent defensive wards, but they just don't look like they have any kind of idea of what to do. With all the structures that have gone down so fast, with the dragons starting to snowball towards King, M3 are just in as much disarray as we just described King last game.
Yeah, and the dragon back in a minute now as well. King going to look for their second, I believe. I think it is one apiece. Yep. M3 does have one as well, so haven't quite been able to shut them out of that objective, but pretty much everything else is going the way they want it here. In fact, Woosh, he's going aggressive. He's not building the Last Whisper that we might have thought about. It's actually Infinity Edge third.
And the person who's been relegated to Last Whisper is Dade. Doesn't even have a Blade the Ruined King at 23 minutes into the game. Has just gone for armor penetration despite the fact that the armor stack hasn't even begun. He just didn't trust himself to build the 1,000 gold towards the Blade the Ruin King wanted to pick up as much instant power as possible. And speaking of power, we see a trade.
Yeah, another good hook there is all actually landing down for Thresh. Assassin follows through with the charm, and a good chunk down happens, and that might force M3 enough to not contest for this next dragon.
It's the big worry is we see Sky going aggressively in top.
Yeah, actually looks like Hecarim is going to onslaught away though with the ulti. Looper going to follow in potentially, has already used the equalizer, but he's going to flash forward, lands one harpoon, going to line up the second and gets it overheated now, but Candy's going to rotate in on his Corki as well, and Sky just going to pop the E and run away.
Yeah, the devastating charge comes off cooldown, able to escape. Dade really wants the death mark, but does not have the range. And King, they're going to answer it with an inhibitor turret.
Yeah, Sky might even try and keep Dade back, but thinks better of it, wants his life. But this turret going to go down here. Dragon's available, but they don't want to hit. Condi actually forced to get away. Good blocking actually using the Tibbers in front of the Thresh to try and block off the death sentences, but another inhibitor tower finally falls for King.
So we look at the comp from M3. We've mentioned the fact that they look like they've been relegated to just answering pressure and not being able to initiate anything. We mentioned at the start of this game, they only set up for the equalizer. Their only real initiation comes from Love CD. And look, wonderful Annie play last game. We're seeing kind of the limits of the Annie pick now. Whenever the Tibbers is off and they don't manage to get a pick out of it, M3 can't force anything. They cede everything to the enemies, and King, they're overrunning the map just like M3 last game.
I mean, I feel like with Annie especially, we talk a lot about champions that are good at going forwards or backwards, and Annie really only goes forwards and is very good when doing so, but when going backwards and playing off on the back foot, just a little bit trickier for a champion like Annie that's so aggressively minded.
Yeah, AoE initiation and magic damage is all that Annie provides as Lupa smartly stops Sky's back.
Yeah, actually Sky, like you mentioned, is forced to back off there, so we'll run around the top there and make sure he completes that back. Looks like his first defensive item, is actually coming through here. So looking good. We talk about Hecarim needs the aggression from the Trinity Force and the tankiness, and he's kind of got to that point here.
He definitely got the mid-game gold-efficient tankiness. Not the big ticket item just yet, but happy to teamfight against anyone. It's probably going to be Dade.
Yeah, I mean, Dade's still on split push duty now as well, trying to finish up some items, keep the waves pushing in aggressively, and a smart one to push out as well as the bottom side is exposed now for M3, but even with no major objectives here for them to try and get, King are just so strong. Woosh has finally finished, quickly finished his 3 damage items.
And so M3, we said, okay, they don't have initiation. What can they do to try something? What they can do is put Dade in a split lane and try and get some split push pressure going, because it relieves pressure off all the other lanes on the map. Without Blade the Ruin King, doesn't have a lot of kill pressure, doesn't have the attack speed to take down structures quickly, but with all the armor penetration coming through, can stand up to Sky. You just have to worry, not many defensive wards down for Dade. King, they're doubling down on pushing in the top lane. They don't want to react to this split push, but they may have to.
No, I mean, Sky can just stay there. He does have his teleport if he needs to be up there, and Dade does not have the same luxury, so he is going to run back now. Blade of the Ruin King finally finished up there for Zed, but this Graves is very strong.
But literally the only option Zed has is just to split push and gain an advantage and force reactions from King, because proactively, the anti-stun we've mentioned is the only option they have, and they're not going to win team fights when they're 10,000 gold behind.
Yeah, Assassin does clear out the pink wall there, but Candy actually gets a green ward for his troubles there, so M3 slowly having their defensive vision pushed out of their own jungle again, and just like in Game 1, M3 were doing exactly this to King at this point in the game.
Dade's been forced to group with the Blade of the Ruin King. You can be a great team fighting Zed, but I don't think it makes a big difference just how overtuned in terms of items King are at the moment. They're in a significant power spike. And M3, all they can really do is look to clear waves. They have to respond eventually to the global pressure coming through from this massive wave in the bot lane.
Yeah, even Lamb actually has like a luxury Aegis here just for an additional defensive item. And everything's just looked good here. Assassin got 2 damage items. Graves has 3 with an unbelievable amount of gold so far. And Sky is still in the bottom lane hanging out.
I mean, there's no words to describe the burst coming through from this level 14 Infinity Edge Bloodthirster Static Shiv Graves. This is the burst build, but also with the attack speed, critical strike modifier of the Static Shiv. So much damage coming through, and no big armor purchases either.
Yeah, quickly just saw the gold for a second. I think he's about 4,000 gold ahead of Candy. And if you just want a really big idea of just how far ahead Woosh is at this point.
It's not even just a Bloodthirster ahead, it's a Bloodthirster and change ahead of the Corki.
Yep, and that's basically translated in that Infinity Edge that he's managed to get as a big ticket item here in the early stages of this mid-game here. Sky, though, actually pressuring down. No one here from MP's been able to answer. Looper's trying to keep him off a bit. Hecarim going to chip away slowly but surely. King going to get something here. In fact, they're on to Baron.
They're on to Baron. It doesn't look like M3 has any way to check it. They do have the Scrying Orb, Corki's walking towards. They're going to spot it, but they're probably just going to spot a dead Baron if they don't react much faster.
Yeah, they do use it now as well. I don't know if they can do anything about it. Dade are going to get chunked down as well. Assassin getting very aggressive, but teleports coming in for both teams now as well. King actually do not finish the Baron. They're going to dive in there. It's really low. Condi steals it away, but Ari gets the first kill. There's the playback onto Lee Sin, and that's Hecarim going to get the next one. M3 got baited into it, but they do get the Baron now. MLXG going to run in. Skyler's looking for it. A charm lands onto Dade. Onslaught of Shadows comes in on top of collateral damage, and MLXG collects the third kill. Candy running for his life, and Liam flash hooks does find the Corki. Flay back there, and Liam, that's the last kill. 4-4-0 there for King.
Liam is by far the MVP. They need to remove as many Baron buffs as possible to stop any potential reset button coming through with that Baron pickup. Now it's only Loop, but they will pick up this inhibitor. They just want to ensure that they haven't given a lifeline back to M3, because credit to Connie, that was a massive steal.
A really strong steal in one of his first LPL games, but King are going to get maybe more out of this push here as well. Middle inhibitor turret getting very low here. Isn't quite going to fall as the rest of M3 are going to respawn here, but a big chunk of gold for everyone to spend here on King, especially that mid lane.
3,300 or so. Ari returns with the items going to be massive. It's going to be a Void Staff and then something coming through from King. Only the Baron buff minions buying 5 minutes or so of defense was really a hope for M3. Split pushing, especially with the Baron buff, will be massive for Dade. Already a strong split push champion Zed. Having the Baron up minions would at least force a reaction coming through from Sky, who had just used his teleport. But dying on the outside, only Looper having that teleport, having the Baron buff, and no teleport or real split push pressure coming out of the Rumble. M3, they'll feel good about it. They got a nice burst of gold, but it probably won't mean much.
Condi actually getting hooked there as all by Lamb, but that's just trying to keep him off the objective. Pickaxe here for Woosh. He's actually got 3.5 damage items now, so looking forward for that fourth last Whisper as his next pickup here. Rabadon's Death Cap the purchase there for Assassin as well, so going big on the damage items, just like the 3-item Graves. And Hecarim now very tanky, Frozen Heart, and almost advantage on a Candy. Just getting destroyed 1v1. He does get ignited, will get away, but this Hecarim is terrifying.
And we ask about the Ignite, we ask about the Trinity Force Hecarim, but when you see it, when you see an instant 800 burst of damage, despite the fact that he didn't even charge up the devastating charge for a long amount of time, you see the burst potential from Hecarim with the Ignite and Trinity Force is unreal.
Yeah, Sky going big on the carry mode here as well for this particular horse. Dragon is going to go over here as it's just respawned to King. They pick it up. Oh, before we can even flick over to it almost, that's 3 dragons now for King. They have, what, 12,000 gold ahead already. M3, they do not have a lot left to give away.
And Hecarim is stoked to pick up even more damage scaling from the passive with the extra 5% move speed. Clippity-clop so fast up the top, and nothing Looper can do to react.
No, Wuxia even pushing almost solo now in towards the middle stage of the map here. Assassin, Lame as well, also rotating through. I mean, Love City with the stun ready could try and make something happen, but Hecarim's insanely strong. Both of the mid and bottom laners are strong here as well. Just everyone is powered up here on King, and it's reflected in gold differences across the map.
It's the god tier Hecarim in the top lane, doing massive bursts to the turret. At this point, Looper's been outscaled. There's nothing he can do by hitting a massive equalizer in teamfights. And the scary thing is, it wasn't even a lot of gold invested into magic resist till, what, 2-3 minutes ago. It's a very late Spectre's Cowl. Hecarim is looking like a very, very deceptively strong champion against the Rumble as we start the fight.
Yeah, Condi actually goes in, kicks Woosh away, but can't quite finish it there. He will flash out there. Looper's going to dive into the backline, but so many shields onto this Graves. He survives with ease now as Rek'Sai gets the next kill onto Annie. Dade diving in the back, but just gets killed. That's 4 kills already. A double kill there for Graves. Sky charges forward with the ulti, and King have finished the game.
They went for the emergency engage, but that's all it was, with such a big gold lead coming out to King. And then basically a complete mirror of the first game. 1 for 1, 1 point each. Doesn't help either of them, but no big hole to come back from either.
Yeah, Charging going to take out the Nexus turrets here. Supermin is going to help out with the tanking, and King will claim victory here in the second game versus M3, and we will stay even here, still tied 7th to both these teams.
Such a surreal series. MVP performances from both AD carries and almost mirrors of each other. 9-0-6 was Woosh's final score. Went massive on the Graves. Graves definitely suiting him. The Kalista defensive option didn't work, but when they went proactive, King looked wonderful against M3.
And it's crazy to me that we basically saw the same game from both teams. Game 1 was completely M3, snowballing through, picking up advantages, strangling vision out of King's jungle. And in Game 2, we saw almost exactly the same thing.
And you just felt like the top lane matchup was the big difference between the two games. Despite that it was the fact there was a skill matchup in the first game, Looper took it over. The jungle pressure from LXG didn't affect anything, and Looper really carried through that game with a very good Nah performance. In the second game on the Rumble, never got going. And to be honest, Sky just played around him, outscaled him very early Trinity Force, about 16, 17 minutes, and never looked back.
I mean, how often have we seen the big carry Hecarim, picked up here in the LPL in recent weeks and just fall flat, not do anything? That was not even a big snowball game necessarily for Sky. He just played that matchup out wonderfully.
I mean, without Magic Resist, staying up in CS the whole laning phase, getting the Trinity Force, actually building armor before Magic Resist, so standing up to Looper's Rumble, and then outscaling him in terms of teamfight impact. The equalizers they could never hit because there was only one setup CC, and Love CD, polar opposite of his previous game, just couldn't get the big picks to justify the wombo combo of that Annie Rumble.
And both teams, might go home disappointed here. A 1-1 split, not what either of them wanted, but they'll stay tied here and just move up a point here in the standings. But don't go anywhere. We have another match coming in just after a short break.